Today is the 31st of December 2024. Means that today is the last day in the month, in the year 2024. That's 365 out of 365. We're super grateful for life. And because of the fact that we can return this morning and say, yeah, let's do it. And then let's talk about some big stories making the rounds. Well, the year unpacks very, very soon. And Nigerians and people around the world will be reflecting on some of the big stories that shaped 2024, from politics to economy to entertainment to sport to foreign policy. 2024, a lot of people would say, was a significant year, and it's one that the memories will be etched in our hearts for a very long time. So this morning, the headline news review will take a look at some of the big, stories that got Nigerians talking in 2024, and some of those stories that really shaped Nigeria. Some really shook the country, and some got us worried. Some were like, at some point we had stories that got Nigerians together. Let's look at sports and all of these big stories. We'll take a look at them this morning with Nicholas. Good morning to you, Nicholas.
Good morning.
I can see the big smile on your face. You feel like, how excited are you?
Well, with the new year approaching, I can't wait.
You can't wait.
I can't wait.
So we're thankful. Don't forget as well, you can join the conversation this morning. Real quick, we'll just touch on some of these big stories this morning that really shapes 2024. Please note that the views expressed on some of these stories is not in any way the position of Flow FM 92.7, but are solely expressed by Nicholas Uwarunoye, the analyst this morning. I am Adedayo, Adeyemi.
And also Danielle. Straight away, let's a look at this very big one that got Nigerians really, really talking towards the beginning of the year, I think. And this is about the new national anthem.
Wow.
The adoption of the new national anthem. It was a significant event within Nigeria. Was the government's decision to reinstate the country's first national anthem that was composed in 1959 by Lillian Jean Williams.
Wow. It's still, people are still talking about the national anthem.
Till now,
it's still an issue because till now, this is my personal opinion. I really don't see the need for that national anthem, really.
For it to be shifted from the one that was in use since 1978. I haven't really seen the reason,
but exactly, because considering the fact that the second one happened to have been, created by Nigerians themselves. You understand?
Benedict Odiase.
Exactly. So that is more indigenous to us. But then, according to the president, I think he was taken in by the wordings of that, the previous ones we had. Yeah, the first one. So that was why he changed it. But sometimes a change of value does not come by change of words and mantra mounting. But let's see how it is. Nigerians are getting the hang of it already. Having to get old men like us to start singing what we,
Is everybody really able to sing it now?
To a very large, when you have public events and you hear them, all you just need to do is just see them open their mouth and say nothing. Nigerians are very, very creative people. You notice that this time around, when you say let's sing the national anthem, they already have an audio. So people sing along with the audio. You understand? It's just a way of covering up, people not being able to,
really
sing it. But let's see how it goes, really. Because if there's anything about Nigeria, is this our unique way of, facing challenges and being creative, and adapting. Yeah. Well, let's see how it goes.
Well, for older people, older Nigerians who may not be able to sing, but I think these younger ones
will be able to adapt quickly.
It's something that they instill in them in schools.
Exactly.
Even public and private schools. That's
my kids sing it very well.
Let's not embarrass ourselves this morning. Let's not embarrass ourselves this morning. Away from that, let's look at the collapse of the national grid. This is one big story in 2024 again. The collapse of the national grid in 2024 underscored the persistent challenges facing Nigeria's power sector. Widespread outrages disrupted daily life of millions of Nigerians, affecting households, businesses, and essential services. I must let you know.
Yeah, that's how we counted.
It's part of a big conversation of 2024. What is the way for what are we looking at in 2025?
I think it broke down about 12 times.
12 times, right? That was the last count.
Month. Yes, once every month.
Once every month. In November alone, there were about, was it 4 or 5 of it? October, I think. October or November.
That's not to talk of the partial, well, it's I don't know how it's going to be next year, really, but let's hope this time around we're able to, because some of those things that were being said were the cause of the outages, like banditry, vandalization, and things like that. We see a lot of movement within the military, the security agencies. And I'm hoping that by next year, this idea of using a drone, to do patrolling of some of these things should come on board, because there has always been this idea being muted of having drone stations across the geopolitical zones, especially in the area of border and pipeline and infrastructure management. So let's see whether it can come on stream, because I'm hoping that you are going to see more of more patrolling, more systematized way of managing, securing infrastructure. Let's hope it's going to improve.
Secondly, how can Nigerians enjoy, stable electricity and the new year because of the huge investments? We're hearing that there's going to be huge investments in the power sector, and something, a country as big as Nigeria still dealing with, stable electricity. I think it's sad for the country.
I also remember you talking about, all the alternatives like wind and solar.
Solar is something that we as a country are going to look into in 2025 and moving forward.
I'm sincerely hoping so. You see, another problem we have is we have this fixation about, as creative as we are, we can be so fixated about just one way of doing things. You understand? Like the solar thing, I gave the example of the Australia where they use roofs, as a solar panel. They come to you. The government come to you and tell you that, look, or a company approaches you, a homestead, a locality, and say, okay, we need about 2, 3, 4, 5 houses to put, then they generate power from there, put it in a common grid, then they sell it, and they even pay you. They pay you for using your facility. What it does is that it secures it, because it's your house. You're able to secure everything that is happening there. If you want to take from the power, they deduct whatever. At the end of the day, they have to give you at the end of the day. So, that is one way of looking at it. The wind thing is another thing that you can explore very well, especially in all these arid places, So, there are so many things. And who says we can't even go back to coal? We've abandoned our coal. Nigeria is still very rich in coal. So, there are so many things. But we have this way of, if it's not hydro, if it's not, gas power turbine, we don't like to bring in a lot of mix into solving that problem. That is one thing that I think we should be doing. We should think outside the box. This regimentation about if it's not this, then it's nothing.
Would you think is the fear of failing in that, that alternative
We've
route?
done that before. We used to have coal. Coal used to power.
I'm talking about the new, alternatives that you're talking about, maybe wind and then solar. I feel like if so many people, push to that direction, as an alternative route for power, do you think that is a fear of failing in that way?
No, I don't think it's a fear of
stopping it. Yeah.
No, I don't think it's. I think it's about vested interest, really, because when you look at it, you see a lot of solar. For sake of crying out loud, Araba has a very stronger solar unit. So and how are we coping? See, the thing is that the capital outlay is so huge. Government has to come in. To give that is a subvention. Give subvention. It has to be heavily subsidized. People have to invest heavily in it. So when people invest heavily in it, then it brings down the cost of installing such a facility in your various place of work and things like that. So it takes off a lot of pressure on the central what's it called? The power grid itself. So at the end of the day, you leave the power grid for industrial uses, So, I think it is worth exploring, really. Let's look at alternatives.
All right. Well, let's move away from that and onto this other one that was such a conversation in 2024 as well, and that's the increase in the national minimum wage. And that was in response to the rise in living costs. The Nigerian government raised the national minimum wage from 30,000 naira to 70,000 naira. This decision came after prolonged negotiations between labor unions and government officials, as well as protests by workers across the country.
That was another testy one for most Nigerians, really, because you had this ding dong between NLC and federal government, and of course how much of a living wage it is, and of course we've seen it, we've seen it play out, and even as we speak, some federal parastatals have still not collected their salaries for December or November, from what I've gathered, So, and of course, how are states going to, cope with it? Because ordinarily, now, you have a state that is already complaining about even meeting up with 30,000 naira, now shifting to 7,000 naira, 70,000 naira, and you have pockets of, complaints here and there that there are attempts at downsizing. So going into the new year is still going to be very much of a challenge, and we are still going to be talking about it a great deal. Especially with the economic situation that we have in the country.
Well, from 30,000 naira to 70,000 naira, how has this really, really, improved the standard of living of Nigerians?
No, not really. No, not significantly. What am I even saying? Not even marginally significantly. So it's just like a drop. When you are thirsty in the desert, somebody puts a drop of water in your mouth. It doesn't satisfy anything, because if you look at the calibration or the calculation by NLC, they put it at close to 230 or 250,000 naira. That's if we are going to have something minimal. So we are talking about 70,000 naira. And don't forget, if you recall, one of the things that NLC said why they agreed to 70,000 naira was because, when they had the discussion with Mr. President said, is either you have 250,000 naira like you want, and we have to raise the price of fuel, or we put it at 70,000 naira and we continue to manage the fuel. But at the end of the day, that subsidy was still removed. There was, we have a almost totally deregulated, downstream sector. And fuel still sells at, is it 800 naira now? Or is it 700 and something?
900.
900 naira now. So, where does it leave the average worker? Where does it leave him?
And that brings me into the conversation about Dangote Petroleum
We
Refinery.
cannot talk about 2024 and not talk about Dangote Refinery.
Of course. And, after decades of reliance on imported petroleum products, Nigeria has finally broken free from this dependence, thanks to the Dangote Petroleum Refinery, with a production capacity of 650,000 barrels per day. And this refinery has commenced operations this year, making a significant milestone in Nigeria's energy history. Wow. So now, for the first time in decades, Nigerians have access to petroleum products refined within the country.
Yeah, it's a very big one for Nigeria. It's a very big one for Africa. West Africa especially, because we are not talking about just a development within Nigeria. We are talking about development across the the West African, African hub, oil hub. Having to bring it in from outside like Europe and the rest of them is more expensive for most of these African countries. But from Dangote, from that are move fuel from here to Ghana is far cheaper. You understand? So they have an alternative that is at the level of international trade. Now within the country, we are expecting, as we have been seeing, a gradual reduction of the pump price. Especially with promises of so many other refineries coming on stream. Let's see how that goes. So there has always been that argument that there is a need to deregulate the downstream sector, and the biggest player, the biggest sign that shows that we are going in that direction is the coming on stream of Dangote Refinery.
And we're also hearing about the Warri Refinery.
Or the Warri Refinery, the Port Harcourt Refinery.
And would that bring a lot of competition? Because we're also hearing that Dangote Refinery has brought a lot of competition, to the NNPC. Will we see further reduction?
Yeah, well, you see, the thing is that you have to take the entire stories that come out of this refineries coming on stream. You see, you hear on the one hand that they are coming on stream, then the next minute you hear that it has packed up again. So we need a consistency to be able to properly project. But on paper, yes, there should be more competition that is to the benefit of end users of fuel. That is what I see.
All right. This is another conversation that will spill into 2025 because we, as a country, as a nation, we cannot stop talking about it. We just hope that as the announcement made that the Warri Refinery is up, and of course, we hope that it will stand there and of course begin
we sincerely
to
hope so.
Function properly. What does that say about the Tinubu administration? These refineries have been moribund for years now.
Well, you see, let us get certain things straight. You see, if there is anybody that you can describe as a go-getter, somebody that is, Tinubu has always been a go-getter, regardless of whatever his strategy says about him. In terms of setting a goal and getting it, the man is good at doing that. When you look at his, if you look at when he was the governor of Lagos State, don't forget, he was one of the first that ventured into private power generation with Aaron, even though it was shortly because of, the system. We have a national grid law that made it extremely difficult for Lagos State to profit from making, creating that. Then you have a lot of innovations coming from him when he was the governor. He was the first person that created, delineated the local government, that brought about an issue between the state and federal government. Where the federal government had to withhold the local government allocation. So he has always been the kind of person that thinks outside the box. You have to give that to him. He has a business orientation to governance. You understand? So now you see with the Warri Refinery coming on, it shows a remarkable ability to dig deep, on the part of the president. Because you see, you need to understand the cabal that controls that refinery process is massive, huge, and it's like a behemoth. So to now, however way he achieved it, I don't know. But what we see, the mere fact that you see movement at all in the refinery is really commendable. It is salutary. That is, but we can only pray that it is sustainable.
That's a big concern.
Yeah.
We cannot talk about 2024 without bringing in this good one that brought Nigerians together, that brought Africa together, neglecting our tribe and neglecting, tongue, and everybody came together for the African Cup of Nations. And that final, Cote d'Ivoire emerged victorious in the 2023 Africa Cup of Nations, defeating Nigeria's Super Eagles and claiming the $7 million prize money, along with a third title since 1992 and 2015. Conversely, Nigeria lost extended their 11-year trophy droughts. Notably, Cote d'Ivoire journey to the final was a remarkable turnaround. If you remember, they had a very sloppy start at the AFCON. And Nigeria, a lot of people that I predicted, even me, I predicted Nigeria was going to leave the trophy, but sadly enough, I don't know. Things just changed in the finals.
Well, you see, the thing is that it further cements that thing about Nigerian football. As the Super Eagles, this larger than life thing that you never say never when it comes to Super Eagles. If you recall, when we started, it was this drab over defensive play that we had. The Super Eagles have always been known for flair, but all of a sudden we have a different formation entirely, where there was a massive concentration on defense and hitting on the counter. So the thing dragged on, and of course you have the new discoveries. Look at that goalkeeper, that you have from South Africa, Nwabali. So it threw up a lot of things that old thing that we have always known about Nigeria, that we can always dig deep when it comes to football. But it was quite sad, really, and I think the technical crew had a lot to do with it. Losing at the final, because I thought that that defensive formation was our undoing, because when you are going to play Cote d'Ivoire, we shouldn't have sat deep. I still believe that we should have come out, to really attack. We should have more of a flair. Then when it looked as if the game was changing, I think the coaches were frozen, really, and they should have done something. Maybe we'll have a different outcome at the end of it. But all the same, it was a fantastic outing for Nigeria and for Africa.
And because I'm looking forward to the future of football, and because what is in for the Super Eagles. Again, so we have the World Cup all qualifications there. And do you see us performing well and going to the World Cup again?
Well, that World Cup thing is something else entirely, because it was like don't forget that we have been at the qualification. We are so poor at the qualification, World Cup qualification right now. That. As it is now,
you say the Super Eagles, the chances are very, very
slim. But I do know that we've been in this kind of position before. Let's not forget. And that's the thing I said about Nigeria. You never say never. A few minutes ago, I was just reading that there is a presidential task force already set up. Headed by Hope Uzodinma, the governor of Imo State. To ensure Nigeria's qualification. And when you see those kind of presidential, these are heavy. They are heavy hitting. They are trying to dig deep and get heavy hitting sports, stakeholders to see where the problem is going to be. And going into the next round of qualification, I think we are going to have a different Super Eagles entirely. Because they want to go to World Cup.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move away from that and onto this conversation as well that really got people talking. In fact, the entire country, that's the bad governance protest. Nigeria witnessed a nationwide protest from August 1st to 10, 2024, which sparked widespread outrage and garnered acceptance from citizens across the country. The protests, which began in Lagos and Abuja, quickly spread to other states, with demonstrators expressing grievances over poor governance and economic hardship, largely attributed to President Bola Tinubu's recent reforms.
That was another very big one. And of course, I hope lessons from there have been learned. Of course, the spillover of that event was this arraignment of 96 minors or so in court. For me, the lessons that
72 of them.
72. Okay,
yes,
sorry, please. Yeah, 72 of them were arraigned, and it was a national embarrassment. Of course, when the minister came here, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice came here. I took time to thank him for his intervention. In saving Nigeria a great deal of shame from that, from that incident. And I sincerely hope the political class have learned, that you can only push. You can't. There is a level to which you can push people. You understand? When you create a policy, there must be a need to talk to people, make sure they understand exactly what is happening. If care is not taken, we might have that kind of a thing happening in the tax bill too. As much as I support the bill, but you can see that a lot of groundswell of that I think largely is political. Really, I think it's largely political because the bill, looking at it, I think it has come to allow for enterprise to thrive in Nigeria. So again, as much as I like it, does not mean I have to force it down on people, and I sincerely hope that the president agrees with me on this. Yeah,
and that's another conversation that will go into 2025. But let's see what happens now that the House appeared to be divided, but in a way, I also seemed united on that bill. But I'll just say, it's more political. You see, the governor of Bauchi State, Bala Mohammed, speaking against this, and making that, very, very sad statement that the North will prove its true color.
I'm disappointed.
A lot of people have condemned that statement. Anyways, this year as well, the president reshuffled his cabinet and sent which sent shockwaves across Nigeria on October 23rd. With a surprise cabinet reshuffle, marking a significant overhaul of his 45-member cabinets. Some of these changes that we saw in education, and of course some ministers were moved from one ministry to another. The shocking one was the Minister of Education. I did say that the former Minister of Education was, to me, a bit laid back. It's not the kind of minister you needed at this time, especially with the handling of that JAMB issues and things like that. And so, the age to sit for the examination.
Exactly, and also it's too antiquated and jaded. Nigeria needs to move forward. And to a very large extent, you see that there are lesser controversies coming from the educational sector. Since this young man came on board. And one of the things that you see happening in that place is the appointment of the new SUBEB executive secretary, a very young, brilliant, individual. I think it's a lady. Yeah, I was reading up. I forgotten but I think she came into that office. She's coming into that office highly recommended. So these are some of the things you are going to be seeing in the educational sector, and of course, there is a need to have somebody who understands the need for fund, education. How take the seat in that particularly sensitive office. So, by and large, that is something. And then, of course, don't forget that in one of those cabinet reshuffle, we had the scrapping of the Ministry of Sports and bringing back the Sports Commission. And of course, having a Shehu Diku. But I still hear that there are a lot of issues with that because according to the law, there are supposed to be some statutory appointments, that will make it very, very viable. And I sincerely hope it doesn't, a lot of states are replicating this National Sport, Commission thing without necessarily looking at, the necessity that has to be put in place, the need for a board to be there. They need to appoint a DG, before you have a chairman. All those things are issues, that I have been hearing from the grapevine that is creating a lot of ripples that might, shortchange, Nigerian sports industry if care is not taken. But I sincerely hope the president is on top of the game on that matter.
2024 will not be over without this one, and of course, it's still something that, a lot of Nigerians are still waiting for its execution, and that has to do with the Supreme Court's judgment on local governments. And the Supreme Court made a groundbreaking ruling on the financial autonomy for local governments, marking a significant milestone in the country's history. And this conversation is still in the air.
It's still very much in the air, and it's still going to continue. Because you see, if you recently, you notice that the Attorney General and the Edo State Governor had an issue, where the Attorney General had to rebuke the state governor and tell him that you cannot willy-nilly remove the chairman, an elected chairman of a local government. So, and of course, you if you recall, there was a fireback, by the state governor, telling the Attorney General not to meddle in the state affairs. So what you are going to see invariably is that, you are going to see a lot of governors coming together on that issue, just like you have in the case of tax bill. Because you see, what the president is trying to do is to get the governors more creative. But you see, the thing about humans is that we don't like changes a lot. You understand? You see, it wasn't like this in 1999. We had a functional local government, but gradually the governors eroded their powers. You understand? So after a while, it became the norm to just sack an entire, local government chairman and put a caretaker or a sole administrator in local government, which is unconstitutional. And the Supreme Court ruling, for me, the federal government, especially President Tinubu, has to find the nerve to really put his foot down. And you see, of course, it comes with a lot of sacrifices. You understand? Because the governors are now going to sit. They are not going to sit on their hands. They will make this an issue for 2027. And honestly, I am hoping that Tinubu, for the good of the country, will have to stand his ground, because I know generally that the moment you have the buy-in of the average Nigerian on the street, the average voter, you have nobody to fear. You see, I have always had that belief in me, that I have always had it. And in fact, one of the presidential candidates demonstrated that during the election. We are talking about somebody who was said not to have a political structure, coming winning Lagos, winning significant, so that is the groundswell of, people backing you. So if the president can decide for once to work for the people, I think it's a fait accompli for him, getting re-election in 2027. Okay. That local government thing is going to be decisive for 2027. Okay. Yeah.
Well, let's quickly touch on, one international story, a very significant one that also, a lot of Nigerians got talking about it. Donald Trump victory in the 2024 U.S. presidential election, and based off of, despite being convicted of, crimes relating to business dealings and everything, he remained undeterred, and then he, in a surprise landslide, defeated Democratic opponent Vice President Kamala Harris.
Yeah, for me, I would describe that as the biggest comeback of the political comeback of the century. That is the simple truth. But we are talking of a man. Comeback, yeah, we're talking of a man that was roundly vilified. In his first tenure, even though there were controversy about the election. Yeah, there was a lot of controversy, but the man coming around shows one thing. And that is that, I think that the Democrats became overtly overbearing about their ultra-liberalism, and apart from that, there was a lot of toxicity coming from them. As much as you are liberal, people who hold on to traditional values we are now seen as criminals. You understand? So, practicing your religion now became an issue for most Democrats. And the presidency, the U.S. presidency, we are not seen to be fair to all these values. For God's sake, even the American Constitution was premised on certain religious values. In the name of God, we trust. In God we trust, and things like that. So this, the United States, Constitution and everything was built on Christian values. And a lot of liberal democracy that allows people from wherever part of the world that come in to practice their religion unhindered. So a situation where you now have a kind of liberalism where all those things that we know, that are natural to us, the issue of sex, the issue of gender-related issues, a lot of things that are in those days we used to consider as sacrilegious, now becoming the norm and being excused. Those were the issues that defined that that election, and of course the international policies too. Because it's very significant. Of course, the Mid East, then the Ukrainian, the Russia-Ukrainian war. Those were things that the Americans felt like we need somebody that is strong. All right. Yeah, that understands traditional values.
All right. Some of these stories really shaped 2024, and of course, this is not to say that Nigeria didn't have its own problems in 2024, but we just hope that in the coming year we'll focus on the president, we'll focus more, and we'll see a better 2025. Nicholas, thank you for making 2024 a good run, even though you joined. This is pretty much in between. Thank you a lot for making it great, and of course, on the Headline News Review, we'll return tomorrow in the new year. I'm excited about that. And our conversations, we'll pick it up again from here to tomorrow again. My name is Adeyemi.
And I'm Danielle. Shitta-Bey. It's been a good run. See you in 2025.
Here to light up the sea.